and you have 10 attendees.
Okay.
And
welcome everyone to the presentation called Impact and Global Grants. We have as our guest speaker Walter Hughes Jr. from the Rotary Club of Rocky Mount, Virginia in District 7570. Walter earned Rotary's Vocational and Distinguished Service Awards. His work is highlighted at Rotary International Conventions. He's recognized as the White House Champion of Change in 2013. Items were recently donated to the Smithsonian Museum. Walter's team passionately provided clean water to over 400,000 people in Africa. He partners with 170 Rotary clubs in 45 Rotary districts in Quebec, Ontario, and British Columbia in Canada, Mexico, Switzerland, Taiwan, Ghana, South Sudan, and 25 US states, including Florida and our District 6990, may I say. He also partners with other nonprofit organizations and churches. Walter championed Rotary projects over the past 11 years to locate wells in communities with the highest incidence of guinea worm disease in Ghana and South Sudan. The World Health Organization certified Ghana as free of guinea worm disease in 2014. He traveled to South Sudan during the Civil War in November 2015 to inspect Rotary's clean water projects. There are 26 guinea worm cases in 2017 in the world, and South Sudan had 0 cases in 2017. Thank you, Walter. Rotary is close to eradicating both guinea worm and polio. He worked as the Director of Strategic Technology at America Online, and he is now an independent missionary. He is the proud father of 4 children and a new granddad. And Walter also goes to Ghana, where he sees clean water flowing. And they say where Walter goes, water flows. And he works on sanitation with microflush toilets, new medical equipment at hospitals, and computer labs at schools. He's empowering communities to dream and take the lead. Microcredit loans are transforming communities in a lot of the places, in toilets, as far as farm loans and business loans. So without further ado, and Walter also returned from Ethiopia this year. Ladies and gentlemen, Walter Hughes.
Thank you, Peter. Good afternoon. Today we want to talk about transforming lives through global grants. And the first thing, we can't do all that we dream, but we only can do the things that we dare to dream. So today I want to talk about how to take your ideas and your vision and your dreams and working through your Rotary Club and Rotary District 6990 and the Rotary Foundation, we can turn those dreams into real projects that can transform lives. And one example, President-elect Patty Effa, Patty was in a community called Abansari, and this little girl came up to her and said that she wanted to be a doctor when she grew up. And the women in the community said, how can she be a doctor? She can't even go to elementary school. And so Patty went back to her club and said, can we build a school where we drill the well? And because she had a desire to help other people when she grew up, Rotary turned that dream into an elementary school in Abansari. And Abansari was a immigrant community that was very poor, but they were saving and maintaining their well, and they had a dream for a better life for their children going forward. So there's 5 concepts to changing lives. And the first is compassion. And as Rotarians, we have compassion for many, many different things. We have 6 areas of focus. And as we gain our compassion for education or disease prevention or water and sanitation or peace, that compassion turns into a passion. And as we build that passion, we tell stories, just like the one I just told. And we build friendships with a team of Rotarians who are like-minded, who want to make that work happen. And so we build that team, and that team can be all over America, all over the world, and in the communities where we are targeting our change. And so it's important that we make that happen with our ability to change lives. And the first thing we want to talk about is the project planning stage of doing a global grant. And we want to form a 3-person team from our club and assign roles. And part of the project will be developing a budget. I mean, how much money do we want to raise within our club? How much money will we need to find elsewhere? In a few minutes, I'll talk about how we can create a budget and where the money comes from for a global grant. And then we'll set goals. Do we want to build a school? Do we want to help mothers in childbirth with a neonatal ICU? Do we want to help to promote peace? Do we want to provide a scholarship? And we'll create a plan and find partners to help. And this team that we're building can go way beyond just our own home club to include any other clubs in the district or in Florida that can really make a difference here. And that's the first step. And once we have that dream, we want to put it down on paper. And this 1-page summary has really proven to be a critical aspect of getting everybody on the same page, so to speak. The first paragraph tells the key facts of what's happening with the project. And it'll mention the budget and what we want to achieve. The second paragraph gives a few details about the project. And the third gives the contact information. So we want to find the picture that gives 1,000 words for a story and include that picture. And a lot of people, they want to put down the history of a project and the background in a community. That's good for the grant application, but this is a short and sweet explanation of what we want to do. And our target for this 1-page summary is club presidents, assistant governors, and district governors in 6960 and really around the world. So don't go on to 2 pages. Keep it short and sweet and simple. The first paragraph goes into the email that you're sending out to club presidents and district governors asking for help. And that picture should be in the body of the email as well. And then you attach this 1-page summary asking for $500 to $1,000 per club to have the money for this effort. But this 1-page summary is something that's developed between your club here in Florida and the club that we call the host club that's in Central and South America, Africa, Asia, wherever we're targeting our work. And what I want you to think about is not a one and done project. Define phases. So the grant we're beginning to write now is phase 1. And so we want a short-term plan, a long-term plan, and ideally build a strategy for 5 or 10 years. So make a commitment to a community or to a country and have a plan that goes through the whole 6 areas of focus. Many communities, they first want clean water, and then they ask for sanitation. Then they ask for disease prevention, and then they ask for education. And then after that, economic development comes to the forefront once they have food and water and their kids are getting an education. So if you have a plan, you can begin over years transforming the lives of the people in that community until they become a donor community and they can help other cities in their area have a better life. And so the partnerships we're talking about today with global grants, the dream needs to include your dream, but we need to have the dreams from the local community. And that means talking to the local communities about what's going on. And the Rotary Foundation requires that the Key Biscayne Rotary Club, if it's Peter's club, District Governor Peter, work with the host Rotary Club in the target country. And the reason the Rotary Foundation makes that requirement is they know the hometown, they know their country, they know their culture, they know their language, and they have a new perspective. So if it's just our ideas, the project is a weak one. But if it's a win-win partnership where we're building relationships with other clubs, then it's their money, their ideas, our ideas, and then the dreams and plans for the local community coming together to make this happen. And so we have to build friendships. And that takes time. So it can't be a quick effort to build those friendships and then to build trust. So the host Rotarians pictured here, these are Rotarians from the Bolgatanga Goodwill Rotary Club in the Upper East region of Ghana. And it's a small club, about 20 people, but they have implemented and just finished in January a $200,000 water and sanitation project. So working with this team, they may be small, but they have big hearts. And so finding that club in this case, Ghana in West Africa, and getting to know those Rotarians makes a huge difference. And one thing that Rotary Foundation is requiring now is they call it a needs assessment, but I call it a strength assessment. And what we're looking for is to understand the needs of that community. But what we're talking about is we want to know their strengths as well. So what can they provide as far as planning and organizing? What can they provide as far as funding? And what we're telling the community now is, what is your vision and what is your dream for your local community? And how are you going to change your community? And we want your time and your labor and your money. We'll provide the training. And then we're working with microcredit loans to extend the local funding, and then Rotary fills the funding gap. So we look at every aspect. If it's a school, we want to know how many kids are in school, how many kids we expect to come to school with a new building. If it's a well, what are their current drinking sources? How are they doing this work? And is the water safe to drink? What's the population of the community? Those kind of things. And so the needs assessment or strength assessment is fairly comprehensive. And they want that done for every community we're impacting on a global grant. And part of it is, a lot of times a club will come up with an idea. I want to work in Haiti. I want to work in Kenya. And there's someone from Haiti or from Kenya that wants to help their hometown. And so we talked to a Rotary Club in Haiti or Kenya or Ghana or Peru. And that Rotary Club is 4 to 5 hours away from that community that we want to target. So the rule of thumb is we want to have 60% of the work should be within 1 hour of the host Rotary Club's home. And 40% can be at a distance, but only a couple people can travel that 4 or 5 hours away from home to see that project at a distance. And the young leaders with families and small businesses, they can't travel that distance. And so if you want the young, energetic people involved in your project, there's got to be something in the hometown of the host club you're partnering with. And so at that point, you're talking with them, where do you want to impact your community and what do you want to have done so that it becomes a win-win. But if we are confused why that host club has no interest, and we find out, you know, traveling 500 miles, that can take 2 days. So how many people really want to travel 2 days just to get where they're going? So we have to understand the impact of the local leaders in that club and make it a win-win relationship where there's something happening for that club. And the key jobs with a team is we need a project leader, and it's usually the people who are in this class. You become the leader, but you may not be good at writing grants, so it's good to find someone who can write grants or have written a grant before. And then it's good to have a guru, someone who knows about water projects. But when I started, I had no idea about clean water. And so I asked other Rotary clubs who had done it, how do you drill a well in Africa? And they shared information and actually gave a pledge to our grants. So you can not have the knowledge, just have the passion and find other people that have the knowledge to help you make it happen. And then it's good to have a champion. And we'll talk about those in a minute. And liaisons are the ones who build relationships with the host Rotarians and the other nonprofits working with their NGOs and local government in the target country. And it's good to have a reporter who can prepare a press release to share with local papers of the donor clubs and your club, and someone who can post pictures and updates on social media so that the club is informed what's going on, but also people who have interest in the club knowing what's happening. And we won't talk about giving. There was a good session this morning on giving to the annual fund. And so the money that was given 3 years ago was invested by the Rotary Foundation. And so that money was given in 2017, 2018. And now in the year 2021, we'll have district designated funds for 6960 that is dependent upon the money that was given.
6990.
I mean, 6990, sorry about that. So 6990, all the contributions from 2017, 2018 is what District Governor Peter Verbeek will be using. And Alan Cohn will be using for district designated funds for global grants and for district grants. So the more money given to the annual fund 3 years ago, the more money that 6960 has for contributions this year. And so now we want to talk about the usual giving is about $200,000 to 6960. And the 6990, why am I? 6990, half of that goes to district designated funds, and half goes to the World Fund. So you have 100,000 in each bucket. The 100,000 in the World Fund is what the Rotary Foundation matches 6990, okay, with the district designated funds. And then the foundation committee has to create a budget, and that budget is being developed now. And so roughly 34% will go to district grants, and then 20 to 24% goes to polio and the Polio Plus effort, and about 42% goes to global grants. And so once they develop their budget, there's certain rules by the Rotary Foundation how the money is split. And they, at that point, will have money for the local projects that are being done in Miami-Dade, Key West, and the Grand Bahama Islands. So that's how the money for district designated funds work. And it's kind of hard with the speakers. The club contributions, let me move this out of the way. If you're able to raise $8,500 from 8 different clubs in the Miami-Dade area, and District 6960 matches that with $8,500 more, and then if we are able to find $2,300 outside of Southeast Florida and find $1,100 in district designated funds from another Florida district, the Rotary Foundation will match the $8,500 from District 6960 and the other district to give $9,600 towards the effort. And when you do that, the grant budget would be $30,000. And the maximum amount that 6960 will give to any one project is $10,000. So there's been a few changes to the Rotary Foundation matching rules, and the changes will require us to work outside of our district to be able to raise enough money to have the global grant. But all the past governors from 6960, they have the relationships with other past governors, and so does District Governor Peter Verbeek. They will be able to help you identify potential partnering districts for this project. And one thing that I've learned is that we need to have signs. And so many of our projects are check writing projects to other charities and other work. And where Rotary is growing around the world, there is a sign. And that sign lets people know that Rotary was there, that we provided clean water and sanitation and work. So when you're working on a local project in Southeast Florida, make sure that if it's possible that we have a sign so that people know that we are Rotary and that we are changing our community. So if we're doing work in the school, ask for a school sign to be posted. And the types of projects that we have many different kinds of partners. And with the change in the Rotary Foundation rules, we need to tap into all the kinds of partners that I'm talking about here. So we have local partners within the community, we have coaches, we have donors, we have experts, and then we just do it. And so the local partners, whether it's in Miami or it's in Bolgatanga, it needs to be community driven. And the best Rotary projects, whether it's a district grant or a global grant, lets the people in the community have a voice and that they feel that they are leading the effort. And what I say is we're no longer providing clean water. What we're doing is building leaders. And then those leaders in the community are providing clean water. And we need to listen to the community and listen to all voices. Many times, the women in our communities, their voice is not being heard. And so we need to make a strong effort to make that happen and to hear what they're saying and let them have room at the table. If we are creating a water and sanitation committee, we're asking for 2 women to be on that committee. And we now have women in leadership roles throughout Africa, but what we're learning is that the informal role of leaders in the community, they need to be at the table and listened. And that strength assessment is so important. And so once we listen to those women, we'll put that information on the strength assessment. And we have coaches. They are past governors. They are past RI directors. They're anybody in the field that we're wanting to support. So this is the first female vice president of Rotary International, Ann Matthews, and she's been a big coach of mine. And coaches are critical to any team. And without the coach, the team doesn't know what play to call. And so it's good to have the quarterback, but we need that coach. And with the champions by district, when we look at 6990, Drew Monahan is an example of a past governor who has great ideas. And so Ray Williams has gone from district governor to PDG. And so come July 1st, the phone will stop ringing for Ray and he will feel so lonely. And so if somebody would ask Ray for help, he would be so grateful that he's not forgotten. And so the past district governors know the clubs that can support a project. They know the other districts in Florida and elsewhere that can help. And they can even give presentations on your behalf. And they can ask for money and open doors. So it's important to look for a past district governor in every district you want to work in, raising money, and ask for their help. And many times they are so willing to be a champion for your school, for your water project, for disease prevention, whatever it is, they will be there. And then it takes time And now it's a little different. We're doing presentations by Zoom, but it's being in front of Rotarians and telling the story of the need and asking for help in the effort that we're doing. And it's just, but once we make that presentation, we've got to ask for the money and ask for help. And so, and then explain that their money, if they raise $1,000, that can turn into $4,000 that can provide a new well. And the experts really make a huge difference in the project. And this is Michael Anacazzi. Michael can repair a well. He can do disease prevention, surveillance, really whatever needs to get done. And so listening to people in America and listening to people in your target country makes all the difference. And then we have some Rotarians who are doctors and nurses, but that's not our strength. We can turn our weakness into a strength by partnering with organizations that provide medical equipment. And so one example is supplying a hospital. We can have a budget of $20,000 to ship equipment to a country, and like the Grand Bahama Islands after the hurricane. So that money can turn $20,000, $40,000 into $250,000 US project by having an organization that takes medical equipment, refurbishing it, and getting it ready for a laboratory or a surgical suite, whatever we need. And without them, we couldn't help that hospital, but with the right partner, we can really turn a wonderful project in that can give the doctors and nurses in that hospital the tools they need to treat patients. And with COVID-19, it's so important that we remember that we can make a difference even if we are not that doctor. And we also want to find regional and national leaders. We helped eradicate guinea worm disease, which is a 3-foot-long parasite out of Ghana and South Sudan. And so knowing where people were sick, Rotary was able to put wells into the worst places in the world in 2 countries. And so now having that coordination made a big difference. Universities, we fell into RIVP and Matthews taught President-elect's training in Boston. And the President-elect said, we have a member who has built and designed a new toilet. We learned about the microflush toilet. And so it was a university professor and a Rotarian who had designed a new toilet that replaces the pit latrine, that uses a cup of water to wash your hands for the next flush, and a bed of earthworms and microbes break down the waste into compost. So don't forget universities in our communities where the university students can help, and so can the college professors. And many times they can do research projects that help our efforts. And there's in-country experts. We really have used farm extension agents very well. And so helping a farmer provide a better crop really makes a huge difference. And so that's another partner that we can look at. And then microfinance is something that we're not using a lot, but partnering with the right microfinance organization, we can extend the reach of our dollar so that money is used over and over again for water and sanitation, for disease prevention, for farms and small business loans. Whereas before, they were only used really for business loans. Now we've proven that it can be used in a whole range of areas. And the contractor, a lot of times we talk about going over and doing the work ourselves, but if we give the job to a contractor, then they are providing jobs in country that can make a big difference. So we need to make sure that we have the contractors involved and that we hire skilled people. There's so many engineers, for example, that are getting an education in these countries, and they need jobs. And our projects can provide jobs for that engineer coming out of the university. And we worked with the Carter Center to go through South Sudan during the Civil War. There's no way that we could have done that without the partner to make that happen. And then we need to partner with all faiths, because Rotarians, we are all faiths working together. And so when we're working on a project, we need to think about how the churches and mosques can be a part of the effort. And what I've learned is we need to think about the people who are not in Rotary yet. And this is the son of a past district governor. He had no idea what Rotary was, but he went with me to Ghana, and his dad really wanted him to understand what Rotary is all about. Here he's digging a hand-dug well, and he had a ball. So now our non-Rotarians, when they see what Rotary does, they really want to be involved. So think about your projects, how to get other organizations that can work along beside Rotary. And Bob had a great example of that this morning, talking about building handicap ramps for homes. And so there was 4 or 5 different groups that they were working with to make that happen. And Interact and Rotaract, this is a young man, his name is Yitzi. Yitzi said, I want to be involved. And so he's written global grants while he was going to school. And they want to be hands-on, and they don't mind writing projects, but they also love planting trees and doing the hands-on stuff in our communities. So don't forget our youth who are associated with Rotary. They can be the secret sauce for a project. And so I'm so excited today about transforming lives through partnerships. And we are thankful for you today for being in this class. And I want to open it up for questions. And so Peter will be looking at your
chats,
questions, and I think you can unmute yourself, and we can begin to make that happen.
Okay.
And
Walter, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Peter.
No, just want to thank you so much for coming and giving your presentation. It's always such a compelling story, and always learn new things. If I may, I'd like to start it off with a couple of questions. And one of the things that has attracted a lot of Rotarians to contribute to some of these projects is the empowerment model. And traditionally, when you go to a lot of the different projects, you end up seeing that there's sort of no skin in the game kind of thing. And the beneficiaries call you back a year later and say, oh, my well's not working. And so that portion has really made a lot more people interested when we use empowerment. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yes. Thank you for that question, Peter. We are really asking the local community to provide leadership. And so we want their vision and their dream. And then we want their labor. And traditionally, the labor was physical labor. And now we're saying the labor should be planning and organizing and mobilizing the community. And but we're asking them to raise money, to start saving for the effort. And we explained that it takes about 6 to 9 months for us to raise money and to write a global grant. So while we're raising that money, they should be raising money as well. And they may not be able to raise as much as we are, but what we're asking them to do is to save money every month in that community. And that money will be the down payment for the project. And we will match their money with money from our club, our district, and the Rotary Foundation. And then what we say is we will provide training. So if you want to maintain a school, we'll teach you how to maintain a school. If you want to maintain a well, we'll teach you how to maintain a well. If you want to run a lending group and microcredit loans, we'll teach you about microcredit loans. So whatever you need to fulfill your dreams, we will have you do. And then what we say is we will include microcredit loans to increase the local funding. And then Rotary will fill the funding gap. So it's a very different model than the charity model that we are used to, where everything comes from Rotary. Now, when we're done, the local community says, we did it. Now, Rotary helped us, but it was our leadership, our labor, our money, our vision, and our dream came true. And Rotary helped to make that happen. Does that make sense? So thank you, Peter, for that question.
Absolutely. Thanks. The other thing that was really interesting with many of the participants, we have 26, it says here. So I encourage you to please put in the chat box some of the questions you have, or we may have the possibility through unmuting that you can bring that up. The hospital equipment that we ended up sending to Ghana with Denise Sears. Can you share a little bit about the program she has and how we were able to connect with other organizations to kind of enhance the projects that we're doing?
Right. Supplies Overseas and other organizations like hers, they work with hospitals, and many times a piece of medical equipment has been put on surplus at a hospital, but it has really good life. And so what they go through is get the user's manual, they refurbish the piece of equipment, and they get it into a suite. And a suite means that if you are working in a surgical suite, that the lights and the surgical table, the surgical equipment is all part of that suite. And the same thing is if you're working in a labor and delivery department, there's all kinds of equipment you need for delivering babies. And so they will identify that equipment. And then what happens is you go through a needs assessment for that hospital. And they will say, well, the labor and delivery needs equipment, the surgical suite, we need that too. We need the laboratory. We need hospital beds. We need wheelchairs. So all that information goes to Supplies Overseas, or SOS, and they determine how much of that equipment they can find.
Right.
So that makes it happen. And then Christine has a question that says, what is the highest amount you can request from a grant for a project? And effectively, there is no limit, Christine. The minimum is $30,000. So the average size of a project is between 50 and 75,000. And then a large project will go between 100,000 and $250,000. And so now they've created a new category that you can have multi-million-dollar projects. But that is something I haven't done yet. It's there used to be a big grant called a 3H grant, and it sounds like what they're doing with these really big projects is going back to that idea that we can develop a big project and have it. So Christine, whatever you want to accomplish with the Rotary Foundation funding, we can do it, okay? So, and then when we partner with other organizations like the Carter Center and SOS, then we can multiply the money we raise through the Rotary Foundation to grow a $50,000 project into a $250,000 to $300,000 project with the leverage of the outside groups. And
we have, by the way, I don't mean to interrupt you, quite a few GBI people that are online, and we ended up having Denise Sears working with the Rand Hospital right there in Freeport. And so that was such an amazing thing to see and to happen. So,
and I really encourage the Grand Bahama Rotarians that are on this call that a lot of these projects that we're describing here we need to think about for the Grand Bahamas for recovery. And with 6960, you can sponsor
90,
these,
90.
6990, we can sponsor these projects and work in the Grand Bahamas. So it's creating that one-page summary of the work you want to do. And the economic development aspect of microcredit loans is something that the Grand Bahama Islands for the small businesses could really use. So there's so many ways that the Rotary Foundation can help expand what's happening in the Bahamas. And so we're talking about Africa and South America, but let's think about the Grand Bahamas, and really the Keys have really suffered with coronavirus. So there's things that we should do down in the Keys to help as well.
Right. So one of the important points here as well is that we've made a commitment this year to do a global grant with the Bahamas, and we're asking you guys to get a task force together and come up with jointly with what kind of a project you guys want to do in Grand Bahama, and I'll be there to help you guys make that happen.
And Rotarian Fuentes, your question is there a ranking or scoring criteria? Do we have a database of templates or previous applications that have been granted funds? And the answer is yes. We have samples of grants, and Governor Peter can share those with you depending upon the kind of project you want. We do our work in Dropbox, and so we share those templates from one project to the next. And as far as ranking criteria, the Rotary Foundation has a set of questions that you have to answer to write a Rotary Foundation Global Grant. And so they really want to know that we have a thorough plan for what's happening. And if it's not complete, if you don't have the strength assessment, you don't have the proper answers, your grant can be rejected. Or if we are focused on something outside of the 6 areas of focus. So one example would be if we want to supply an ambulance to the Grand Bahama Islands, that would be rejected because it's not part of the 6 areas of focus. So we have to learn what they will support and what they will not support. One example is we were able to build schools for 3 years, but that pilot program has ended. So at this current time, a global grant to fund a school would not be allowed, but hopefully that will come back in the near future. And if you have a follow-on question, feel free to ask it.
I'd like to touch a little bit on microloans. We've got some experience in that arena. And Walter, why don't you share some of the things that are going on in that area?
The microcredit loans was something that we wanted to prove that we could do wash projects with loans. And with a well, the community can make a down payment, like we were describing earlier about the empowerment. But what we're looking at is they make a down payment and then they take loans out to pay off the well over time. And then it's commonplace for us to go to the bank and ask for a home improvement loan. But it's not commonplace to have a home improvement loan in the developing world. And so we proved that the developing world can have a home improvement loan for a toilet. And if the household is thriving in other areas like their farm or their business, then they can take out a loan and pay it back to have sanitation at their home. And the microcredit loans, we've learned that women can be lifted out of poverty with a microcredit loan. And we'll teach them how to partner with each other and to encourage each other and to be accountable to each other. And so those small business loans for women make a huge impact. And so over 3 years in Kumasi in central Ghana, we only had about 40% of the budget on microcredit loans. But 3 years ago, those loans have been given out 6 times. And the grant 2 years ago had been given out 4 times. And the grant from last year has been given out twice. So that money of about $300,000 for loans has turned into $1 million of impact in our communities. So the microcredit loan, instead of funding one well or one toilet, we can fund 6 or 8 toilets, and the money can just keep going. What we've learned is we need to work with microfinance organizations that have a heart for the community like Rotary does. And they need to have honesty and integrity. And they need to put their own money to work alongside Rotary for these projects. So finding the right microfinance partner is a key part of the effort.
I think that's what's extremely encouraging on some of these loans. They're short-term, usually around 6 months, and they're cross-collateralized very often by several people where you've got and get the confidence where you can go ahead and loan the money. But in the economic side, we've seen how it has really turned things around. Some of the women are able to even have more dignity now and show their husbands that their little projects and what they're doing is making a difference in their communities. So that's a whole other arena that is a separate conversation, but I'm glad that we've got that seed planted there and that we can further talk about it. We have, let's see here, one more minute to go. And
John, my recommendation for you about raising that few $1,000s is don't just look at the Ukraine community. Look for anyone who's been touched with cancer. Look with anyone who wants to see improved medical equipment, and write that one-page summary that I described and send that to the assistant governors, every new AG in 6960, okay, and to club presidents. Target the top 5 giving clubs in the district and ask for funding to get this done. And the goal, John, should be to get it submitted by the end of June. And what I have learned is it takes about 4 to 6 months for a grant to be approved by the Rotary Foundation. So that gives you 4 to 6 months to raise the additional money. So I would suggest submitting the grant here in June and then having that money raised by October when the grant will be approved. And Inez, you asked about building schools in isolated areas. How do we move teachers there? The school grant program, that pilot, it was called the Simple School, has ended, Inez. So, and even when the pilot was going on, we required that the Haitian government or the Ghana government pay for those teachers. And so that's a part of the challenge is we didn't have a budget to fund the teachers. And many times they want the local community or Rotary to fund housing for those teachers. So it's a challenge, Inez. And I just encourage each of you with a dream that those dreams are possible. And you have a great incoming district governor in Peter Verbeek who has seen water and sanitation, disease prevention, has seen medical equipment delivered. So he has firsthand knowledge of these kinds of projects, and he can find the people that can make it happen. So John and Inez and Christine and all the others that are attending today, I really encourage you to shoot for the stars and make these dreams come true and keep on going.
thank you, Walter. I'm going to have to shut it down here. And I need to mention to you guys that take a look at the email that I sent you in order for you to check into the last plenary session here that's going to be starting in a few minutes. So
let me answer Susan's question real quick. Susan, the best place to find parameters for global grants is at grants.rotary.org. Okay, and it'll have information there. And the way I started was looking at videos, but if you contact Governor Peter, he can share some samples of grants with you and help you get started that way. So, and then my recommendation is there's so many amazing people in Southeast Florida doing projects. And so
and Bahamas.
In the Grand Bahamas and Key West. So what I recommend is reaching out to Alan Cohn and your grants chair and your governor and asking for help. And they'll be glad to lend a hand.
Thank you so much, Walter. And maybe you wouldn't mind giving some other presentations so the clubs may contact you, and we'll keep you real busy.
Yeah, I can speak to your club, John or Susan or Inez, and encourage your club to transform the world.
Right.
And so you are the Rotarians, and we have the vision, so we can get it done.
Right. So Inez Lozano is president-elect, soon to be president of the Key Biscayne Rotary Club, and does a lot of projects in Haiti. And we have so many people that are here that are really changing the world. And so thank you all. And I see Drew just jumped in. It all worked fine, Drew. Thumbs
They
up.
said it wasn't possible.
We were a little bit nervous, but it went out fine. So you guys, again, I sent you guys an email with the link for the last session. Drew, chime in.
No, we're good. Just a heads up, everybody, for the next session. This is not a join from the website. This is the one you registered for. You have an email from Peter or from me, behalf of Peter. That's the link you use. If you have any issues, just text or email me. I'm getting used to that this morning anyway. So I really appreciate your patience, Walter, with the technology and all the attendees. Again, appreciate everybody's patience with this. First time we've done it, and we've learned a lot, and it'll be better next time, but we really got good content. So I really appreciate it. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye now.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.